Hi, my name is Shiva. Welcome to Coding Tutor. Today we are going to be design the user management system. To develop this user management system, what type of environment is required and what is the product structure, and we are going to be discussing this video. And what type of operations we are going to perform, especially to interact with the database software to performing manipulations like insertion, updation, deletion, retrieval, and along with this, and we are going to perform soft delete operations and even pagination and validations, and all this going to be discussed in the coming videos. Let's try to start developing. And first step, before going to design, develop the application, let me try to create the environment setup. What exactly required for to develop this application to environment setup? Let me show you now the step-by-step process. So what is the environment is required to develop this application? The first thing, Java 21 version, or you can try to use Java 17th version, you can try to choose. And along with the Java 21, and maybe you can try to use different type of different IDEs, integrated development environment, to develop this application. For example, you can try to take the help of Spring Tool Suite or IntelliJ. Now, in this to develop this application, I am trying to choosing Spring Tool Suite. So, how to download the Spring Tool Suite? Let me show you then. STS download. Look at guys. Now, look at now. Spring Tools for Visual Studio Code, or Spring Tools for Eclipse, Spring Tools for Thea, and we can try to use any one of this, and we can try to download, and we can try to develop our application. Now, in my laptop is Windows, so let me try to download this. Yes, it's taking time to download. Look at now, Spring Tools for Eclipse, the 4.3.2. Eclipse on top of the wrapper, then Spring Tools and design the people. So once your downloading is complete, once your download is completed, just extract it. Please try to extract and open STS. So after extracting, let me show you guys here. Look at now. So once extraction is completed, yes, Spring Tool Suite, just open like this. Wait. So meanwhile, it's taking time to open. And one more approach is Spring Starter. How to create a project structure. Spring Initializer. The step one, we can try to create a project structure using Spring Initializer. Even if you are working with IntelliJ, even if you are working with STS, or even if you are working with Eclipse or any tool, guys, any tool, the Spring Initializer is mandatory. Okay. Now here, to build the tools, see, to develop a project structure, you can try to use Gradle or Maven. Maven or Gradle are a build tools. Using these build tools, we can try to create the project structure. Which language you are preferring to create a project? Java or Kotlin or Groovy? Obviously Java. Now, Spring Boot versions. Snapshot, don't select the snapshot. Snapshot, it means that still is a development mode. Let's try to choose here 3.4.9 or 3.5.5. Any one of this, you can try to choose it. Okay, let me choose 3.5.5. Yes, you can try to specify the group ID, unique ID, internet reverse domain name, and your project name and module name. So here I'm trying to choosing com.ums unique ID artifact. The project name, you can specify the name of this and description and package name, and you can try to choose the jar or var. Look at now, sir. Here you can try to add the dependencies. What are the dependency you want to add to develop this project? Then web and Lombok. Next, MySQL. Yes. Next, and JPA. Yes. And like this, we can try to add the dependencies. This is one of the approach. We can download. We can here observe that, guys. Once it generate, look at now, it's downloading. We can extract this. I can try to import in our tool suite. Otherwise, one more approach. Let me open the workspace here. What the environment is required here now? Java software and Spring Tool Suite. If you're using Spring Tool Suite, happily can try to develop the Spring based applications, Spring Boot based projects. Yes. Now, look at sir. One is find the new project. Now, Spring Starter project. Look at now. Next. Now we are going to be create the project structure. Here you can select the user management system. Now group ID and package name, snapshot and packaging, jar or var, and which language you are trying to choosing. Yes. Next. So you can try to choose the dependencies. Web to develop a REST API. JPA. Using JPA, we can try to interact with the database software to perform the manipulations. Manipulations mean that on top of the database software, we can store the data and we can retrieve the data, we can delete the data. All like this, these type of operations we can try to perform using Spring Data JPA. Okay. Now my validation, and to perform the validations, MySQL driver, because to connect with the database software, which database you're connecting? MySQL. So I'm choosing MySQL. Lombok to generate setters and getters on runtime. We can choose Lombok as a library. Using Lombok library, we can try to make to simplify your application development. To simplify application development, we can use Lombok library to generate setter methods and getter methods and constructors on runtime, so that we can try to use a Lombok third-party framework tool. Dev tools. What is the use of dev tools? If I do any changes, the changes will be reflected immediately. So for example, once I design my application, if I do any small changes, the changes will be immediately reflected, sir. We are not required to stop the server. We are not required to run the server. Next. Finish. Just wait. It's creating a project structure. Now what we understand? Environment variables, environment. What is the environment is required to develop the Spring Boot project? The minimum, sir, very simple. That to develop the Spring Boot project, we require the environment ID tools. You can try to choose STS Spring Tool Suite or IntelliJ. The minimum thing, sir, minimum. And Java, I can try to choose 21 version or 17 version. Anything is fine. And even because this application I'm going to be designed with interact with the database software, let's try to install database software in our system. Minimum we require the database software, tool suite, next Java software. If I have the three tools, I can try to develop the application development. Now look at here, download MySQL. Look at sir. Yes, we can start download. Here you can try to start download. No thanks, just start my download. That's enough. Once you start and it start downloading after installation, yes, you can start utilizing the database software in project development. Okay, let me show you here. Now my project structure is ready now. Look at now. Yes, my structure is ready. Then here the dot property file. What exactly it containing dot property file? Dot property file, it contains the configuration details, database configuration details, configuration details, database configuration details. So which database you are connecting, and what is the class name, database class name, what is the username, what is the password, what is the URL, and using the URL, username and password, we can connect with database software. What is the use of the connecting database software? After connecting the database software, we can try to store the information in the database, and we can retrieve the information from the database, and even you can try to perform deleted operations, and we can perform pagination operations, and you can try to perform and different manipulations you can try to perform on top of the database software. Yes. Next, to make a change of the server port number, server port. So by default, the Tomcat server, by default Spring Boot framework having a great capability, its great feature is embedded servers. Embedded servers. What it means embedded server? Embedded server, it means that Spring Boot, once we add the dependency like web dependency, it will provide the Tomcat server port, Tomcat server support, it will be provided. So the Tomcat server port number is 8080. To make a change of the port number, we can try to use 8080. Default port number is 8080. 80802 to 8081. Tomcat server port number 8080. Once we design the application, please understand, very simple. Once you develop the application, after developing application, deploy into the server. Which server we are deploying? Tomcat server. The Tomcat server is provided along with the Spring Boot configuration itself. Once we add the dependency like web Tomcat server support, it will be provided by Spring Boot. The Spring Boot having a great capability. By default, the feature of the Spring Boot is embedded server. Once you design your application, our application will be deployed into the server, then, and we can try to run my application on top of the server. What is the server port number? 8080. Now, what is the port to 80802? I want to change the port number 8081. Just we are changing the port number 8081. Yeah. So what we are understanding on this video? In this video, we understand what is the environment setup. So what is the environment setup is required to develop this application? One is Java software. Next, Spring Tool Suite or IntelliJ. So how to download the Spring Tool Suite, just now I shown, and once you extracted, and how to open I shown, and how to create a project structure, and we design the step by step. Coming videos, we are going to understand what is Spring Data JPA, and how to apply the validations, and how to apply the security, and how can we perform the operations like paginations and soft delete operations, and we'll see the step-by-step process.